those instructions, so I don't know if they're being provided. Well, I can proceed and also pause to let you do that in a couple of minutes. Well, thank you to our interpreters, Min Lee and Rose Ham. If you do require interpretation, language channels are available. You can please click the globe icon that's labeled interpretation in your Zoom toolbar and select your preferred language channel. All presentation slides will be in English today. Because we have interpreters and captioners with us today, please slow your pace while presenting if you tend to speak quickly, and that everything you will be sharing is important. So we want to make sure all of the information is accessible. If the interpreters let us know that your pace is too fast, we'll let you know to slow down a bit. Please also try to limit the use of acronyms or explain them the first time they are mentioned. Live captions are available, so please click in the link in the chat and a window should pop up with access to the live caption feed. Thank you to our captioner, Karen Broom, for being here today. Please use the Q&A box in your Zoom toolbar for any questions that you have during the presentations, so we don't miss any questions that are placed in the general chat box. So the Q&A box is the best place for questions you want answered. Last, this session will be recorded and will be shared with all registered participants after the event. So I'm going to pause for a moment and see if our captioners have any instructions that they would like to provide to the participants today. Okay, hearing nothing, I'm going to proceed and move forward. I think our recording is going at this point. But if there are other recordings that need to be set, I'll pause for a second to make sure that you can do that.
I think the Korean interpreters are trying to make the announcement, but it's not being heard because I think they're in the English room. If you can go to the main original audio room at the top, that might be the reason why we can't hear you in the main room.
She indicated she did do that. So I'm just not sure why it's not, why we're unable to hear her in the English audio and unable to hear her in the original audio. Okay. I can briefly, trying to see if I could stop interpretation, but I'm actually not seeing that option immediately.
Okay, so we do want to make sure that anyone who needs interpretation before we get started is able to access the interpreter.
We'll ask it to explain it in the chat.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thanks very much, everyone, for bearing with us through these processes before we get started. While Elena is helping with that function, and before we move into the first presentation, I just want to take a few moments here today to let you know how excited we are to welcome you here as you begin your work on one of OVW's newest grant programs, and to give you a brief overview of today's new grantee orientation. Both the letter and the spirit of the Violence Against Women Act support survivor safety, autonomy, and freedom from violence. While the services that all VAWA funds support are incredibly important for achieving those needs and those ends, those who work with victims have also shared the critical need for flexible financial assistance that supports survivors in making decisions about their own finances and offers funds to cover some of their life expenses. This NGO is intended to provide you with some of the most important information that you will need as you develop and launch your OVW-funded financial assistance program. In our first segment of the day, you will hear an overview of the program requirements from the FAV team and learn about financial requirements from our grants financial management division. A little bit later, you'll have an opportunity to meet your OVW program manager in a breakout session, and you'll learn about performance reporting from Olivia Storrs of the OVW Performance Assessment, Reporting, and Evaluation Unit, known to us as the PAIR team. Before moving on, I do want to let you know that Ginger Barron Lyons, OVW's Deputy Director of the Grants Development and Management Division and OVW's Supervisory Official, who also manages the PAIR team, wanted to be here today, but was unfortunately unable to join us. I want you all to know that Ginger has championed this program and supported its development every step of the way. And she sends her congratulations and a very warm welcome to all of you. A special thank you to the National Network to End Domestic Violence for agreeing to support and host this NGO using their Zoom platform. So thanks, Cariel, Shalini, and Elena. Thanks so much for your assistance today. Finally, I want to introduce our next speaker to you, who is a member of the OVW Financial Assistance for Victims team, who has devoted much of her time over the last year to launching and supporting this grant program. Sharon Elliott is a grants management specialist in the Transitional Housing and Financial Assistance Unit, and I'm happy to hand off the virtual mic to her to introduce the next session and the rest of the team. Sharon?
Hi, thank you, Mary. Hello to our FAV grantees. I can't say enough how happy we are to meet you here at New Grantee Orientation. Before we move into the presentations for the day, I want to talk a bit about how FAV emerged. Our office has a somewhat long history of supporting and prioritizing economic justice, financial independence, and self-sufficiency for survivors. Our work includes the formation of the Economic Justice Working Group several years ago. It includes encouraging applicants for some of our grant programs to design projects that promote economic independence and financial empowerment strategies for survivors. It also includes expanding our collective knowledge around economic support with respect to flexible financial assistance. It was through OVW's research and participation in listening sessions and utilizing the Full Frame Initiative and the DV Housing First model as early blueprints of our FAV program, which all of that work evolved into our Financial Assistance for Victims program. Through these ongoing efforts, our office recognized the need for flexible financial assistance to support survivors, enabling their voices to be heard around the things they identify as needs, while also supporting autonomy and survivor-driven services. OVW also recognizes the importance of your work and what this funding means to survivors. The FAV team is here to support you as you serve survivors with the understanding that survivors are in a better position than anyone else to make decisions about their needs, safety, and recovery. I now have the pleasure of introducing our FAV team. They are also program managers on both the Transitional Housing Program and the Financial Assistance for Victims program. The team is comprised of Mirta Charles, Kelly Moreno, Teresa Lopez, and of course, our Associate Director, Mary Seifman. We are just so delighted to be in service to this first cohort of FAV recipients and hope that you'll find today's presentations informative. Thank you. So with that, I will hand it off to Teresa Lopez, who will kick off the overview of the FAV program. Teresa?
All right. Thank you, Sharon. Let me get my screen up and shared. All right. Can I get a head nod or a thumbs up if you can see the slides? Yes. All right. Great. All right. Thank you, Sharon. Hello and welcome everyone to this session on the overview of the Financial Assistance for Victims program. presented by the OVW Financial Assistance for Victims Program Unit and Suhaila Lasky from OVW's Grants Financial Management Division. See if I can advance the slide. There we go. Sharon introduced us all, but just to reiterate, so our team is comprised of our Associate Director, Mary Seifman, and then 4 grant managers who we've all kind of waved to you: Mirta, Charles, Sharon Elliott, me, Teresa Lopez, and Kelly Moreno. All right, so you'll see on this slide that we have assigned a grant manager to each of the states that you are all in. And so if you have any need for help in any way to implement your grant, these are the folks that you would reach out to. We put everybody's email on this slide as well as phone number. So don't hesitate to reach out directly to folks as you're getting started. I know we're talking to a lot of you about budgets. So these are the folks that you would need to reach out to. So if you, starting from the top, Mirta Charles has Colorado, New York, and Massachusetts. Sharon Elliott has California, DC, Georgia, Hawaii, Illinois, Michigan, and Washington. I have Virginia, Ohio, Minnesota. And then Kelly Moreno has Texas, Oregon, and Montana. And I'll leave this up just for a second in case you want to like snap a picture of it or write it down. We'll also be sharing the slides as well. All right, moving on. So just to give a brief kind of general overview of what we plan to go through today and the rest of the slides. So first we'll be talking about the historical background of the FAV program. We'll then move into talking and taking a deeper dive into policies and procedures. And then we'll move into some breakout sessions where you'll have some focus time with your program manager. And also we'll hear about performance reporting, and we'll have some time for open Q&A towards the end of the session. Sharon, I will hand it off to you to start on historical background.
Thank you, Teresa. So the historical background of the Financial Assistance for Victims program. So let's begin our presentation with a brief discussion on that particular topic. So earlier I mentioned that our work involving financial empowerment and strategies. However, most recently, well, actually about a year ago, January through March of 2024, OVW staff from various divisions and units, including legal, our performance assessment, research and evaluation team, rural, the transitional housing program staff, and tribal, all met with several organizations regarding, the implementation and evaluation of flexible financial assistance programs. These meetings were intended to serve as an informal scan of current knowledge and practices on FFA, flexible financial assistance, to inform our programming with data on how such programs work in practice. The outcome resulted, and this is taking somewhat of a leap, but the outcome of all of that research resulted in OVW's appropriations request for funding for this program. This is the first year that OVW has offered the Flexible Financial Assistance Program through the Financial Assistance for Victims grant. And of course, you all are the first recipients of those awards. So as you may well know, but I'll reiterate here, funds from the program are to support financial assistance for survivors to address their self-identified needs. It also recognizes, again, that survivors are in a better position than anyone else to make decisions around their safety and recovery. Next slide, please. So policies and procedures, and we will talk about this throughout the throughout our time together. But some primary considerations that you want to make, next slide, please, when developing or enhancing your policies and procedures, because I'm sure some of you have policies and procedures that are in place, but you want to make sure that you have the elements that we'll talk about here included. And so when we talk about eligibility, you look at the kind of two aspects. One being the standard financial assistance element of the program. And so when thinking about that, you want applicants, applicants must applicants for financial assistance must identify as a victim of one of the four VAWA crime areas. Those are domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking and dating violence, and also trafficking. When we talk about trafficking, we want to clarify that trafficking must intersect with DVSA and stalking as well. So also, whenever you are considering eligibility and you are preparing or thinking of, or you've included in your budgets and you're built into your program, the payment of debts on behalf of survivors that are enrolled in your or participating in the FAV program, applicants must identify as a victim again of one of the four VAWA crimes, but those debt payments that programs are proposing to pay must be connected to the victimization. So you want to make sure those elements are included in your policies and procedures. Next slide, please. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Requirements that victims meet other eligibility criteria in order to receive flexible financial assistance, that's prohibited. And here are some examples of additional criteria that may be included but should not. Participating in other agency services prior to receiving FFA, requiring victims to engage in services related to FFA to receive assistance, having a certain income level, credit checks, background checks, drug and alcohol testing. All of those things are prohibited. You should not use any of these elements or any other requirement that would essentially that you would use to disqualify or not provide services to a survivor. While victims are not required to engage with services to be eligible for FAV funding, grantees should consider offering safety planning and advocacy around the impacts of FAV funds on public benefits. And so you also want your policies and procedures to address that aspect of the program as well. Next slide, please. And I will hand it off to Mirta Charles.
Thank you, Sharon. I'm going to talk to you about what flexible financial assistance is, and sometimes what it is not. Many of you have your program in place and have a program in place or have done flexible financial assistance. Some of you have not. While this is the first year, as Sharon and Mary alluded to, our first year of engaging in flexible financial assistance, these are the things that we look for in your programs, was that the funding allocated is to support the victim's self-determined needs while preserving the victim's autonomy. In this way, the victim will come to you and let you know what they need, not a prescribed idea of what you have to offer. That's a lot of what we're looking at. In saying that, flexible financial assistance is not a pre-designated item or service by advocates or organizational staff. It is not meant to fill gaps in services funded by other grant programs. So if you have a program in place, but let's say we don't have the necessary staff, or they don't offer rent or thing. That is not what you do with our funds. The victim will come to you and ask for funds for what they need, what they find provides them the autonomy to be self-sufficient and keep on growing. Flexible financial assistance is not meant to be used as an incentive to encourage a victim to participate in services that you provide. So that it shouldn't be something that you offer them if they do or participate in a certain service or item that you offer. So that should not be how you address or build up your program. Next slide, please. Policies and procedures that you will devise for this program should at least address the following. Direct services policies, they should have eligibility requirements. They should include safety planning. They should include confidentiality, impact on benefits, and accessibility. They should have fiscal policies in them, which include administration of funds, how the funds will be provided. It'll be tracking payments. So how will you make sure, or you know how those payments are going out? And then also policies around cost reasonableness. How will you determine that this is the best use of the funds, or how the funds are best used? I would like to mention that OVW is developing a number of materials that provide a checklist for policy and procedures that look very much like this, of what your policy and procedures should include. If you have policy and procedures in place, it's not the end-all be-all list, but this is to give you a good idea of what you should have in place as you begin. We'll also provide a fact sheet to that end. So again, centered around how this first year of funding should go. So it determines, again, what the OVW financial assistance program is. Next slide, please.
Mirta, if I can add just from GFMD's some additional perspective on like the financial side. So one thing that I wanted to just mention while on the topic of policies and procedures, and I appreciate that you guys will be providing additional information that's forthcoming. But just to, while we're on the topic, so with your policies and procedures, that part is so crucial to implementing these funds, right? Anytime for any of the ways that funds are expended, having those policies and procedures as like your foundation of your instructions on how you operate and how you, I'll go into a couple of different examples, but you want to make sure that you have created them, that they are documented, that they are followed by all staff around the new process. Additionally, internal controls, that they should be inserted into the process to help safeguard those funds. So for example, if we look at, for example, cash assistance, you want to think about like who has access to the cash, what documentation needs to be completely signed per your policies and procedures before the cash is accessed. What do you then sign to pull funds from petty cash, and who is tracking and monitoring that inventory? That which should be a separate person from the staff who is requesting the funds. So that's just an example of an internal control that would be inserted into the process just to help safeguard the funds. Also, when creating your policies and procedures, if you can think about like the documentation that each type of assistance and each type of your process will require. from like, and what, Mirta and Sharon mentioned already, like from documenting the eligibility review of the client to determining which type of assistance they will receive. All of these things should be documented, to reviewing the reasonability of the amount of assistance and how they were issued that assistance. So all of this should be supported by documentation that is maintained on file and that is consistent with your documented policies and procedures for those instructions that you set up for each of the processes. So I just wanted to give some GFMD input.
Oh, and excellently done. Thank you for that, Suhaila. I'll go on. If you have other areas, please. And that was Suhaila Lasky with the Grant Financial Management team, who gave some really great information, instructions for you to take in and think about with your policies. Let's go to the next slide, please. VAWA confidentiality. The Violence Against Women Act does have a provision for confidentiality that OVW grantees are required to have and to follow. These include maintaining a private storage of all client files and data. So also being very careful about who has access to those files, and making sure that you restrict who has access to survivors' information. Survivors' information should be only gathered with their informed consent and should be time limited. That is, again, part of the requirements for VAWA confidentiality and should be put into practice. A release of information form should be included as part of your policies and procedures. You'll find that on our checklist as well. But as you start and you look at your policies and procedures, note that that is a requirement that works well with our program. Let's go to the next slide, please. Cost reasonableness. Grantees should have a policy that describes the criteria that will be used to determine the reasonableness of cost. Here, we consider the following example. A victim requests funds to purchase a laptop for a small business. The business offers graphic design, and the laptop must be capable of handling that type of work. In this instance, we would want to take into consideration the following. Does the laptop chosen by the victim meet the minimum processing requirements for the task described? Are there other models that would perform the same work but cost less? These are the considerations we think you should have in terms of determining how you can distribute the funds and support the needs of the victim. There are a number of scenarios, but this is the thought when you're looking at cost reasonableness. Next slide, please. Let me direct you to my colleague, Kelly. Kelly, why don't you take on the next slides, please?
Thanks, Mirta. All right, so now let's move on to discuss direct cash assistance. As you all know, the solicitation noted that direct cash payments to victims is limited to the second year of the award. However, we thought it would be important to provide some general information about direct cash assistance today to help you all develop your policies and procedures. The purpose of direct cash assistance is to support victim autonomy to spend funds on needs they identify. In contrast to payments made to third-party vendors, direct cash assistance should be provided directly to the victim. With direct cash assistance, it's best practice to not require victims to make these payments with advocates or staff, and victims are not required to provide staff detailed receipts or invoices once the payment has been made. The only information that victims should provide is the cost looking to be covered and identify that the cost is a self-identified need. As stated earlier, direct cash assistance is only allowed in year 2 of this grant program, but programs should prepare policies and procedures now to be ready for use once year 2 begins. Next slide, please. Moving on now to debt assistance. Debt assistance can be provided at any time throughout the award period. Programs are able to provide a wide range of debts or arrearages with the stipulation that the debt is connected to a situation of domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, or dating violence. Debts can range from past due rents or utility payments to fraudulent coerced loans or credit cards. Additionally, it's important to note that debt assistance is capped in the budget to a total of 10% of the award. So if your award is $200,000, the maximum amount of the budget that can be allocated towards debt is $20,000. If you have any questions related to any specific debt payment request, do not hesitate to reach out to your grant manager for further guidance. Next slide, please. Now that we've talked about direct cash assistance, we can now discuss additional needs that a victim may identify. Because the financial assistance program aims to provide victim support in a broad range of categories, this list is not comprehensive. Of all of the allowable costs covered by this award program. This list is meant to provide some ideas or context of what a victim may request assistance with. Any of these costs are allowable. So costs such as transportation, security deposits, education, specialized classes, employment needs, children's needs, wellness modalities, safety needs, and legal fees are all allowable under this grant program. But it's also important to highlight here that programs should not identify specifically categories of financial support to sort of move a victim to receiving a specific type of financial support. Victims should have full decision-making power in determining what financial support they receive. And with that, we'll go to the next slide. We're going to pause here to provide everyone an opportunity to ask any grants and financial management related questions that have populated in the chat, or just any general Q&A that has come out of this presentation. Please note that GFMD will be hopping off after this presentation, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask them now. There are a couple of questions in the chat, so I will go ahead and start with those. The first question is, what do you mean by impact on benefits? Impact on the benefits of receiving financial assistance? Typically, the benefits that we're referencing here are the public benefits, things like food stamps, other forms of subsidy-based benefit. Sometimes in some situations, flexible financial assistance, direct cash payments, things like that can impact the income amounts of survivors or those who are receiving that assistance, and so it can impact the total amount they are able to receive in those programs. So it would be important to kind of research what those rules are in your community and make sure that survivors are well informed of those outcomes to make better decisions. Next question is, are past due utility bills considered debt? Yes, anything that has a past due or is considered an arrear or something that was not current is considered a debt. And I'll defer to my team to clarify if there's anything that I'm missing. Will the slides be shared? Yes, we will share the slides, the materials, and the recording as well following this presentation. Regarding eligibility, our program specifically serves criminalized survivors. Is having prior current legal system involvement an allowable eligibility criteria for us to use? I'm actually going to ask that Sharon answer this question because there's a way to explain priority and target populations.
I'm sorry, I was responding to a question.
Questions?
Can you, yeah.
Sure thing, I'll read it again.
Sure.
Regarding the eligibility, our program specifically serves criminalized survivors. is having prior or current legal system involvement and allowable eligibility criteria for us to use. So I was thinking about how you distinguished priority or target populations.
Right. Okay, so if that's your target population, that's the population that you've designated to serve under this program. It's That's my answer.
But I don't think that that would change the eligibility criteria.
Right, it wouldn't,
Right.
right, it wouldn't, okay, so it wouldn't
Mhm.
change eligibility. You've just identified that target population as the one that you will serve under this program. So it doesn't change the eligibility. The eligibility that matters is that they meet, that they are survivors of the violent crimes that we mentioned earlier.
Thank you, Sharon.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. We understand that for financial assistance, we cannot require additional criteria, required to participate in a program, etc. However, is it prohibited to ask for a bill or a lease to determine the amount that is due as additional criteria? No. I would not consider that additional criteria, and I'll let my team correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. Because what we mean, oh, sorry.
I'm going to jump in on that
Thank
a
you.
little bit. I think that a lot of these kinds of questions, a lot of these kinds of issues, my name is Debbie Murphy. I'm one of the lawyers here at OVW. I think those are the kinds of things that you would address in your policies. So for example, you know, what you are going to ask about in an intake session, how you're going to determine the amount that you are going to give to any individual victim, you know, all of those kinds of things. I think there's a lot of flexibility, and those are the kinds of things that you should think about in advance and put into your policies. So if you're, you know, if you are going to have a practice of, you know, sort of trying to, whatever your procedures are going to be to determine the appropriate amount to give to any particular victim, you just want to memorialize that in advance so that you are, you know, acting with some consistency across all of your interactions with survivors.
Thank you for adding that additional context, Debbie. I think it's important for us to circle back always to what is documented in your policies and procedures. Okay, so please provide some examples. Oh, the Q&A is moving. Please provide some examples of debt connected to victimization and debt that is not connected to victimization. An example that comes to mind is if a survivor has rental arrears, so they have unpaid past due rent that was in control of the abusive partner, and they did not continue to pay it, and then it fell into arrears and became the survivor's responsibility, then that would be considered something related to the victimization. Something else that can be connected is a loan taken out without the consent or permission from the victim. So those are a couple of examples. If folks have questions about types of debt that you've encountered that you would like to see is allowable, feel free to put that in the chat or the Q&A, and we can talk those over throughout the course of NGO. Alrighty. When you talk about not requiring use of other services prior to getting benefits, are we still allowed to onboard the person as a client, conduct conflict checks like we normally do, etc.? I think principally what we mean by not requiring victims to use other services or be engaging in agency services is that they aren't required to be participating with an advocate to be eligible for services. And I think if this goes back to the policies and procedures question, if you're normally, however you enroll clients, that's your standard policy, and you want to create that as part of your policies and procedures for this program, then you can submit that for review with your OVW grant manager. But just be aware that those are two sort of different things, right? We're saying that a victim does not need to be actively engaging in counseling or legal or any other sort of case management based service to be eligible for this. They can be someone who calls for the first time and says that they need help for they need help with you know, paying their rent next month, or they need help with XYZ payment, and start their work with the program there. And so I'll defer to the program. I'll defer to my teammates for any other clarifying information on that question. All right, sounds like I got that one. All right, so far as self-identified needs go, if it's something our finance team would not typically allow, something like a lava lamp, for example, that might seem frivolous, but a survivor says they need it, then is it acceptable for us to purchase? Again, this is a two-part answer. One, I think anything that you have questions about related to expenses, you are always welcome to contact one of us at OVW to receive further guidance and clarification on whether or not that particular expense is allowable. Second, the foundation of this grant program is to allow survivors the flexibility to purchase things that help their self-identified goals and needs. So if there is a connection to whatever cost that they have identified to help them achieve whatever outcome they are looking to achieve in their life, then that might be allowable. So I'll defer to my team for any other guidance they want to provide to this particular question. All right, looks like I had it sounds like we're good to go. All righty, so the next question is, for debt payments, is it permissible to use funds to pay for things like late fees, interest, etc., that are part of past due amounts, or would the funds be limited to paying the principal debt? I might lean on Debbie Murphy for a little bit more clarification on this, because I'm not sure that fees are considered part of the debt payment.
Okay. So I was also answering a question.
Okay.
Sorry. Permissible use funds for things like late fees. I think the critical question here is that if paying the debt is going to allow the survivor to move forward in some way, then my view is that it would be acceptable. And so, for example, all debt is going to have interest. If it's credit card debt or whatever, it's all, well, maybe not a rental debt, but if it's consumer debt, a lot of it is going to have interest, and it's going to be, sort of rolled into the regular payment. And so I actually think that late fees and interest would also be acceptable if that's what it takes in order to either retire the debt or bring the person up to date in a way that allows them to move forward. So, if the debt is past rent and there's a late fee, and if you pay the past rent but don't pay the late fee, the person still can't get rent an apartment, then, we haven't really moved the ball forward in the way that we would like to. So I actually think that's fine. I think in case cases, you may want to reach out to your grant manager. I mean, there are a lot of situations where something could result in really excessive fees, and that might be something you would want to your grant manager about. But I think generally speaking, I think that's fine.
Thank you. And would you, not to put you on the spot, but I think sometimes folks get a little bit confused about whether or not interest or late fees would be considered part of debt and count towards that 10% cap, because there is a cap.
Yeah, I think it would all be a part of the cap. Yes.
Okay, got it. All right. So thank you for that. Alrighty. The solicitation described the financial assistance as being provided alongside victim services. We plan to provide assistance to victims receiving our services. Does that work? I think I might need a little bit more context to this question.
Hi, this is Mary. It's
Oh,
really
hi.
about the issue you've talked about in terms of you can't require someone to receive services. So we are going to use it. We serve thousands of survivors a year.
Mm-hmm.
We were planning to use it for people who are already in one of our programs. Otherwise, I think if any victim who calls up can get it, it might be gone in several months. I I don't know how to balance that. It's not requiring them to participate, but we would have written the policies for that it was for someone who was already participating in our services, in part because of the language in the solicitation that the financial assistance is supposed to be provided alongside services. So I guess I'm still a little confused about that requirement.
And I'll jump in here, and people in the program side can cut me up at any point. The phrase alongside victim services in the solicitation was intended to indicate that we were selecting as recipients under this program organizations that were also victim service providers, because we wanted, in addition to providing financial assistance as a program, we wanted them to also have available victim services so that clients could avail themselves of those services. So as opposed to giving the money to a city government that would just sort of have this slush fund that they would give money to victims and not have even available any services. That's why we sort of made as a requirement that recipients would provide victim services. So when we said alongside victim services, it wasn't that our intention was that the financial assistance to an individual victim would be provided in conjunction with victim services that client had to participate in. It was that the recipient would be providing financial assistance and also be providing other victim services should the client want to make use of those. So, I think it would certainly be, a routine thing to, as a part of the intake process, let clients know about other victim services. But similar to all OVW programs, we have a statement in our solicitation, and it's in the award conditions that you signed, that says that you will not engage in any activity that compromises victim safety. And one of the things that's listed in that award condition as something that compromises victim safety is conditioning a particular service on the victim taking some other action, like getting an order of protection, filing a police report, participating in other victim services. So it could not, you could not make that a requirement. Like if you're going to receive this funding, you have to meet with an advocate once a week for 6 weeks. You have to go to a support group, whatever.
I'm sorry, that's not at all what I'm talking about, right? I think what I'm asking is, are we required to make this available to anyone who calls our 24/7 crisis line or walks in? And I feel like you're telling me yes, and I want to know, because I think the money's all going to be gone in 3 months unless we can spread it out.
There are other, and I was not, I'm not super actively involved in the selection. I know there are some recipients on the call, for example, who have a sort of a subpopulation. Like there is a recipient with the subpopulation that they're focusing on are folks who are participating in their reentry program. And so if that was a part of your application, if that was a part of your proposal, then you were selected based on the proposal that you wrote. And I have to confess, this is where I would defer to the unit, because I actually didn't read a lot of applications. But if you wrote a proposal that was funded and it had some parameters around it, then that's what we are funding.
Thank you. I'll talk it through
Sorry.
more with our program specialist if we have questions. Thanks.
Yeah, that's the best idea. Thank you, Debbie and Mary. I mean, I would just say one more piece about that, and just what's important to talk about is whether or not the funds are being conditioned on the victim services that are provided. So if you are only providing to those who are accessing services, or you're only advertising or making those individuals aware, then I mean, I think that could be a bit sticky, and that's something worth talking through with your program manager, as you suggested.
All right.
Yes, there was another question that came in from Gina. There's news every day of grant programs that have had funding and contracts terminated. This program will require a lot of work to implement, and we want to make sure it is not in vain. Can you give us a sense of how likely it is that this program will be paused, altered, or terminated prior to the end of the grant period? I will say that we are, as the administrators of VAWA funded programs, our job is to administer and manage the OVW grant programs. We can't predict the future. However, we are here today, launching this grant program here with you, reviewing your budgets, helping you to develop and begin to implement your programs. So we believe it's important to move forward. We're certainly planning on working with you throughout the grant period that you've contracted for, and so that's our our hope and what we plan to do.
Thanks, Mary. And it looks like our final question for now. I see there was another question in the chat that I'll read out loud to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to hear the answer. But the final one in the Q&A is, do grantees need to track security deposits under this grant? At one of the OVWTH NGOs, grantees were asked to track deposits since those payments would need to be credited back in the event that the client moved and the deposit was returned. And I'm so grateful that Suhaila is still on the line with us to confirm that I have the correct information, but I don't believe that we ask that security deposits are tracked under this program the same way that they would need to be tracked under transitional housing.
Oh, Mirta just came on. Were you going to say something to Mirta? I'm sorry.
No, waiting for you. You're good.
Yeah, no, Kelly, you're right. The whole point of that requirement under transitional housing is because it doesn't allow for access to cash like this program does. So when it goes back to the client, then it is like cash to the client, right? So that's why it's required to come back to the program. And so because cash can go to the client in this case, and it wouldn't be beholden to those same requirements.
Great, thanks, Suhaila. We have one last question comment in the chat, and I'll just read aloud what Olivia had answered so that everyone's on the same page. So typically with vendors, when cutting checks, we get a W-9 and issue a 1099 for money being provided. While a victim is not a vendor, if we are providing them direct cash assistance, what requirements, if any, do we have to report that money similarly to a 1099? And Olivia has provided that we will be providing more guidance and resources on directly answering that question about 1099 and taxes and those things. So we look forward to having that ready for you soon. But she noted that in most cases, that's required for any expense over $500. And I'll pass the mic to Olivia to see if there's anything else that she wants to add to that.
I'll just say that that's likely a question that's going to be most pertinent for year 2 once cash assistance is allowed. Some states might have specific requirements, but typically it's over $500. You do need to issue a 1099. And we look forward to providing more details there.
Thank you so much, Olivia. Alrighty, so with that, I'm going to pop to the next slide because I don't see any other questions unless I'm calling once, twice. Alrighty, we're going to go ahead and go to a 15-minute break, which means we look forward to seeing you at 15 past the hour. And once we return, we'll go right back into a sort of introduction session where we'll get to meet one another and your fellow peer grantees. And so we look forward to having that session, and I will see you back at 15 past the hour. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Take this opportunity to meet each other at this point. We please recognize that you are a part of an inaugural group of grantees heading this OVW, and as such, we're here to guide you, but we're also looking to learn from you. What's even more important is that we're hoping we can learn from each other and lean on each other as we develop this new program and best practices. We would like for each team here to pick a spokesperson to introduce the team present. Let us know about your years practicing flexible funds or what you've done in the past. And I will pick people. Let me do this. I will pick people by state, and then someone can speak to the team that you have present and how many years you've been doing this program. We have quite a number of people here, so we're going to do this for the next half an hour and just learn about who's in the state or who's nearby and who your cohorts are that you will lean on in the next couple of years. All right? Why don't we start off that way? Let's see if we have our first team is from Washington. Washington, are you present?
I'm from Washington.
Yay! Washington, who are you and colleagues you have with you on your call? And how many years have your program been in place? Or if you have a program in place?
Could you start by saying your name so I'm able to spotlight you?
Yes. My name is Leandro Bettino. I'm a program manager with Youth Care. It's a local nonprofit here in Washington, specifically in Seattle. And with me, I think I have Althea, and I believe that's the only person from my agency that is on the call.
Okay. Thank you for that. And I might ask her if you guys add also what position you hold with your organization, and very much like he said, what city you're in as well. That would be great. And thank you for that intro. Next, I'll call on Colorado.
Yeah, and just want to note in the chat, Mary mentioned this, if grantees are able to turn on their camera and unmute when introducing yourselves, that allows for us to spotlight you for everyone to be able to see who's speaking. And if you could just say your name at the beginning again so I can find you to spotlight you.
Thank you. So who's representing Colorado?
I'm Lori from Crossroads Safe House in Colorado.
Hi, Lori. Hi, Lori. Or do you have anybody else with you?
We have, I think Karen Neal is on the line. Somewhere in there, she's our finance director. And then Megan, maybe, who is one of our program directors, Megan Harvey.
And how long have you been pursuing or developing a financial assistance program?
Gosh, probably, I think since 2020 is when we started, and it started out with mostly housing focused and then evolved outside of that to really just whatever the clients need.
Good. Something you'll continue. Thank you for that, Lori. I have next on my list, I have California.
Hi, I'm Casey Polly from California, from Weave. I recognize several of you. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Sharon. We have several people on the call with us today. So we have Allison Kephart, our Chief Operations Officer. We have Lilia Chavez, who works in grants and contracts with me. We have two of our managers who will be overseeing this program, our Client Prosperity Manager, Janine, and then our Community Intervention Manager, Christy, who is new to the agency.
Hey, everyone. Glad to have a great team with you. And a little bit about your program, your name, and how long you've been putting financial assistance for victims into practice.
Oh gosh, we've been doing financial assistance for quite a while. We have a Housing First program that really got us started probably 8 years ago. We've also had the OVW Transitional Housing program for 3 consecutive terms, I believe. And we've always had financial assistance as part of that as well. So yeah, we're excited to now have a program specifically for financial assistance.
We're excited too. And what city are you in?
We're in Sacramento, California.
Sacramento, California. Okay. Is that upper Northwest?
It's Northern California, yes.
Northern. Okay, you'll say Northern California.
Central Valley, yeah. No
Thank
beaches.
Thank you for that. Who do we have from representing Virginia with us today?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Jiyoung Cho. I'm from Korean Community Service Center of Greater Washington. I'm here with our Director of Family Services and Quality Assurance to in charge in Victim Service Program at KCC. With his name is Pyo Khan, and also Mr. Jae-hoon Chung, Director of Finance. So I'm so happy to be here as a grantee of this wonderful, great opportunity to support our victims with financial assistance from OVW. And we have been it's like for last 7 or 8 years, we have been grantee of OVW program, some transitional housing, things like that. But of course, it is the first time to receive the financial assistance program for the OVW. So I'm so happy and then so excited to have this program here. Thank you.
We're happy to have you. What city are you in?
The Annandale, Virginia, our headquarters office is located, but some 3 branch offices in Maryland side as well.
Good, good. Thank you. Glad to have you here. Texas. Who do we have with Texas?
Hello, can you hear me? This is Claudia Thompson.
Hi, Claudia.
I'm with the Safe Alliance. Our office is at Austin, Texas. And with me, we have several staff. We have our Chief Quality Officer, Wendy Abramson, Morgan Finlayson, she's one of our grants people, Sam Smotherman, compliance staff, and Jerica Pierre, who's helping with the getting this great program off the, getting it started. We've been providing financial assistance services for over 20 years in different capacities. This is our first time with flexible spending, so very excited for this opportunity.
Great. And what city are you in, Texas?
Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas. All right. Great, Austin. Thank you. Thank you for being here today. All right. Who do we have from Oregon?
My name is Julie Wiesman. I'm the finance director, the former executive director of Hope and Safety Alliance, formerly known as Women's Space. And I'm here with the new executive director who was the previous deputy director. So we're both here, Jim Lax. We're very excited about this because we've been doing financial support through transitional housing grants that we've gotten through OVW over the years during the time that I've been the ED. Our state has some kind of creative, flexible funding around housing, but we've always run up, just like everybody else on this call, with that financial assistance stuff of trying to see how we really could serve as survivors. So we've been doing I think we all started getting this funding here in Oregon around 2020, probably when we all started to try to address the housing issues that were really facing our state when we had fires and all kinds of stuff. For our county that we serve, Lane County, so we house out of Eugene, but we serve the entire county, which is about the size of Connecticut. So we have a pretty large area to cover.
Great, great. Thank you. And again, what city are you in?
So we're located in Eugene, but we serve the entire Lane County.
Okay, Eugene, Oregon. Thank you. Thank you, Julie. All right, next on our team, who we have with Ohio?
Hi, I'm Rebecca Cool. I'm with Victim Assistance Program in Summit County.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi. So thank you so much for having us today and for hosting this. It's been incredibly informative so far. I have 2 friends with me on the call today. I have our Director of Grants and Organizational Giving, Kim Loreen, and I have our Assistant Director of Services, Chelsea Robertson, and I serve in the capacity of Director of Services. Victim Assistance Program has been around for 52 years. We're actually one of the first 2 victim service organizations in the country, founded by Dr. Bob Denton many, many years ago. And so Victim Assistance Program has had traditionally over the past 50+ years about a $5,000 to $7,000 line item for victim emergency funds. So we've been giving out flexible financial assistance over time. We really kind of forayed into more financial assistance after our community experienced a mass shooting in June of 2024. We had a mass shooting in Akron, Ohio. And Victim Assistance Program was selected to manage and administer the Gun Violence Response Fund, which is specifically for victims of gun violence in the city of Akron. And so this new FFA grant is going to be so great because it's going to allow us to help even more victims and really help us to create that infrastructure around FFA. So we're excited to be here.
Okay, excited to have you. And I heard Akron. Is that where you are situated or elsewhere?
Yes. So our headquarters are in Akron, but we have 7 office locations throughout Summit County, which is Northeast Ohio.
Okay, Northeast Ohio. Okay, Rebecca, thank you.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here. We're looking at the Southeast. We're looking for Georgia. Where's Georgia today?
Hi, I'm from Georgia. My name is Selena Faith. We're the Georgia Coalition. Hi, we're the Georgia Coalition Against Domestic Violence. I am the program manager of our Justice for Incarcerated Survivors program. I have a big team with me today. We have Ellie Williams, who's our legal director of the Justice for Incarcerated Survivors program. We have Gran Christensen, who is our executive director, Christy Showalter, who's our associate director, Deborah Monley, who's our director of operations, and then we had Amanda Levon, but I think she had to jump off. She's our director of grants. And we've been doing financial assistance for survivors for a few years now, but we pivoted within the last year to focus on the criminalized survivors, which is our focus going forward. And we've gotten some funding from primarily the Allstate Foundation for that. But we're excited to be doing this now.
Great. And where do you guys, where are you situated in the state?
Yeah, we're based in Atlanta, but we serve the whole state of Georgia.
Okay, excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for that. Thank you for bringing a great team with you. All right. We're looking for New York. New York, it's your turn to speak up. New York?
Oh, sorry, muted. Hi, this is
excellent.
Classic move.
That's right. Slide right in there. Come on.
We are from Community Services for Everyone in Buffalo, New York. I'm not sure if there are other Buffalo or other New York participants, but I'm Stephanie Saunders. I'm the director of our domestic violence programs. And we have Carrie Trevina, who is our casework empowerment liaison, who would be directly connecting with our clients. And we also have Carrie Heigl, who is our finance person and our wizard. And so Community Services has had financial assistance for victims for at least 5 or more years with VOCA, OVS funds, and also OVW transitional housing. And of course, the flex funds, as mentioned before, for other folks, limited. So really excited for this larger opportunity for all of the people we serve.
Great. And thank you for bringing everyone with you. And you said you're located in Buffalo. Is that correct, Steph?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Who do we have in Hawaii?
Hi, good morning. I'm Eddie Esperante from Parents and Children's Together out here in Hawaii. Today I have with me, I have Sarah. She's our VP of Fiscal and our controller, as well as Charmaine, our new assistant controller, as well as Gia, who is our accountant. So Parents and Children's Together, or PACT, we've been around for 55 years. We've been providing financial assistance to many of our programs for a few decades now. Specifically in our DV programs, we've been providing financial assistance for victims for at least 10 years now. And that includes security deposits, rent, transportation, relocation, utilities, etc. And we're just excited for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. We're excited to have you. Thank you, Eddie. And what island or city are you in?
Oahu. So our office is in Honolulu, but we serve all the islands.
All the islands. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, I'm looking for Minnesota, please. Who's representing Minnesota today?
Hi, I'm Mary Durand. I'm with Tubman. We're in Minneapolis, so we serve the Minneapolis-St. Paul Twin Cities Metro. We're super excited about this grant. Joining me today are Deb Anderson, our Director of Finance, and Caitlin Scaife, who's our Operations Manager. And Tubman's been around since 1974, and we've provided financial assistance since the beginning, but some of it's been limited by a lot of funder restrictions. So in 2018, we created what we call the Freedom Fund, and it was created with individual donations and fundraising from private sources, simply to be able to remove a lot of restrictions and barriers and make it very low barrier and very flexible. We're also super excited to have gotten some domestic violence housing first money from the state of Minnesota that started in May of 24. So that's more focused on housing, but it's all the same principles of survivor driven. So that's been fantastic. So we're super excited, right? To have this, the flexible nature of it and the survivor driven is really important. We've seen the difference it can make for people.
We're hoping it matches your Freedom from Low Barrier presence that you have now already, so that it matches that as well. And did you say you were in Minneapolis?
Minneapolis, yes.
Minneapolis. All right. Thank you so much.
We serve the whole metro area.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Okay, Montana. Montana's up.
Hello, my name is Gina Baysdorfer, and I'm the Executive Director of the Friendship Center in Helena, Montana. We do serve a tri-county area around us, and the square footage is about the same as Delaware and Connecticut combined, so a pretty good portion of our state. And we have been around since 1971. I know that we've been providing financial assistance in one form or another since the 90s. I would not be surprised if it was since our inception, but we have a staff member who worked with us all the way back to the 90s, so I can confidently say for at least that long. And we currently manage a few different funds that allow for some assistance to victims, mostly in terms of basic needs with hotels, transportation, emergency food, things like that. And so we're really excited about this grant. I think it's just going to be so much fun. And so our staff is super jazzed to be able to carry out our program and really help people in a more sustainable way than we're typically able to do.
Thank you. We hope so too. Thank you for that, Gina.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, and I forgot to introduce my coworker.
Sorry.
We have our
Okay.
finance director, Cheyenne Bartelt, on the line or on the call with us. And then we have two staff that are currently at the EVAWI conference, and so they'll catch the recording. And so eventually, Jamie and Sarah, our client services manager and program director, will be a big component of this as well.
Good. Excellent. Thank you for bringing them on board. Okay. And let's hear a little from Illinois. Is Illinois out there?
I can go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name's Katie. I'm from the Crisis Center for South Suburbia, and I am the Impact and Innovation Director here. We have been providing emergency and flexible financial assistance for over a decade now. And we just recently crossed providing over $500,000. So,
yay. Do you have anybody else with you today, Katie?
No, everyone else is in meetings.
They're missing out, and I'm sure of that. And where are you in?
We're based in Tinley Park.
In Tinley Park. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for hanging in there with us. Okay. And can I have Massachusetts?
Yes.
There we go. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kate Liddy. I am the Chief Operating Officer for the Gina Geiger Crisis Center. We are located in Northeast Massachusetts. We have offices in Amesbury, Lawrence, and Newburyport. I am joined today by my colleague Cheryl Amy, who is the Director of Finance. And our organization has been providing flexible financial assistance for about 25 years and have increased the different kinds of financial assistance that we've been providing over that time. We're also recipients of an OVW transitional housing grant. We've had some assistance through our state domestic violence funding. And we were the lucky recipients of a lot of financial assistance for survivors during COVID. And so that gave us a lot of practice for distributing lots and lots of money to survivors.
Great and great. Thanks for bringing that to this cohort this first time around, and I'm glad to have you on board. All right, thank you so much. Last but not least, I think I have Michigan going forward.
Yeah. Hi. Good afternoon, everybody. Excuse me. My name's Kimberly Hurst. I'm the Executive Director for Avalon Healing Center. We're a comprehensive sexual assault center here in Detroit, Michigan. And we've been around for about 20 years. And we have had, I would say, we were fortunate to have an OVC trafficking grant that I would consider had pretty flexible funding. And that was an amazing opportunity we had a few years ago. And then in addition to that, we've kind of had what you've heard from other grantees, and that like through some of our state dollars, which are also federal pass-through dollars, we've had a lot of experience in disseminating specific assistance, right, around transportation and rent and things like that, but lots of allowables and unallowables, right? And so we're really excited to have an opportunity to be able to expand and really truly meet the needs. And so I'll also echo what people are saying about this being survivor focused and, really allows us to take the barriers out of all of it. So, and then my team that's with us today is Vicki Bashkatova. She's our Director of Finance. Lakima Covington, who is our Director of Outreach and Crisis Services, and then Darius Beatty, who is our Coordinator for Advocacy.
And am I right in hearing that there's two Vickies on your team?
Nope, just one Vicki.
I think you're just signed in under Vicki Kim.
Oh, I am?
Okay.
Oh, you want to know? I don't know why that is. Oh, probably because I don't know why that is. Okay, yeah, no. I'm Kim. So
Okay.
sorry about that.
Not at all. Not at all. I'm glad I picked that up. I'm glad I said that. Okay. I know I'll be, because otherwise I'd be thinking of you as Kim, and I mean Vicky as I saw you, and I'd be like, what happened?
Sure.
Okay. Kim. Well, I think that's anybody. Did I miss anybody? Any states?
Yeah, Miratide looks like DC is in the house, so if you want to call
DC
them.
is in the house. DC. Bring it on, DC. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Hi there, everybody. I'm Lindsay Silverberg. I am the Executive Director of Volare. We are based in Washington, D.C. I'm joined by our Head of Finance, Mary O'Brien, and our Head of Client Services, Kristen Eliason. We're very excited to be here. We've had flexible funding. We started with really small unfunded dollars about 10 years ago and have sort of gained bits and pieces over the years through various local grant funding. So very excited to be here and have this official flexible funding grant.
Yay. Yay. Thank you. We're very happy to have you. I think that shows everybody.
I believe so. I don't see anybody else in the chat saying they haven't been called yet. So thanks, Santa.
Okay, wonderful. And I hope you guys listening to each other, seeing each other. First and foremost, the amount of years and times, experiences that you have in handling different kinds of money, different pots of money, and focusing it on this endeavor now excites you all. And I hear that excitement. I'm feeling excited about it. And the practices and the ideas you have going forward, we're hoping to share with each other and to make it so that years coming behind you have the opportunity to really learn from you and we learn from you as well in terms of putting together a magnificent program. That being said, you're going to have the opportunity to meet with your program managers at this time to know a little bit about them and what they can offer you, and if you have questions for them. But I don't want to say don't just leave your questions with your program managers. We want you to bring it back so that everybody can hear the questions, get on the same page, or the questions that are kind of bothering you or concerning you at this point, so that everybody can hear and get a response. But take this opportunity to say hi to your program manager and enjoy meeting them, because they definitely are enjoying meeting you. With that, I think everybody has a different breakout room that you'll be able to stop and go to at this time. There'll be an accept button on your screen, and you should be able to click into that and join your team and your program manager. So I believe we can go to that at this time. Is that correct, Elena?
Yes, I opened the rooms, and just to note, for those using interpretation or closed captioning, that will follow you to your room. So do not be concerned. You just need to accept the invitation to join the breakout at this time.
Okay. And I guess I'll take 1 minute. Everybody should be back. I think I see everybody back. All right.
Mirta, can I jump in just really quick?
Yes, please, Teresa.
Because we came back from breakouts, if you need the other language line, you'll have to go back to the globe in your Zoom toolbar and click the language that you want to hear. So you'll just have to kind of start the process over.
I'll wait just a moment, make sure everybody gets on.
Thank you. And it looks like there's also directions in the chat.
Good, Teresa?
I think we're good to go. Yep.
All right, cool. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. A pleasure to hear from all of you. The program managers were excited to have an opportunity to talk with you. We're going to move forward and listen and learn from Olivia Stortz. She's representing the Performance Assessment Research and Evaluation Team, or PAR, unit at OVW. She will introduce you to our impact tool, or the impact tool, which is our method for reporting on your performance and progress through this award. So let's join Olivia. Let's give her our full attention. Olivia, go ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I am hearing feedback, so hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Teresa, did I remember that you're sharing screen, or am I sharing screen? I'm sorry.
I thought you were, but I'm happy to pull up the slides.
Nope, I can do it. I have them.
All right.
Got it. Okay. So I am so excited to be chatting with you all today. And I'm just going to make sure I share everything. Okay, and okay, can you see that okay? And just see the screen?
Yep, we could see that.
Okay, wonderful. Well, happy new grantee orientation. I'm so excited to be sharing a little bit about the work that we have going on here with performance reporting. A little bit about my unit. So we are the Performance Assessment Research and Evaluation Unit, and we work to build the evidence base for VAWA-funded programs, provide research and data to inform programmatic decisions, and equip people in the field with the information and tools that you need to align your work with effective strategies for serving survivors and holding offenders accountable. And before I dive into more about that, I want to introduce myself and say my name's Olivia, and I am really particularly excited about this program because I, prior to my work in government, worked for starting more than a decade ago in setting up and running a flexible financial assistance program, particularly for young people who had experienced sexual violence. So I'm really, really excited to see that this approach and this need is able to be met in some way by the federal government during this program. So thank you for sharing your talents with us and for working with us as we work to implement this program. I'm really excited to see how it goes. And really my job is to make sure that we can learn about this program and share about the important work that this program does because that helps us think about how to move forward. So what we're going to discuss together today is about performance reporting. I'll describe kind of how you need to report, but we're also going to review available research relating to financial assistance for victims. And I'm going to share available research just because I'm just simply too much of a nerd not to share research with you all when I have the opportunity, but also because the research base that we've created or many people have created with flexible financial assistance is really robust, and it really helped us get this program off the ground. And so I want to make sure that you're aware of available resources and just also offer myself as a resource to you all as we continue to learn about the best way to implement these types of programs, both from the kind of academic literature and really from practitioners and survivors themselves. So as we dive into this conversation about performance reporting, I'm going to just flag that there is further support that is available. And I am not going to cover all of these details today. So I won't be describing, a specific grantee situation and how to report that. And I also won't be discussing Just Grant's technical issues. I know that tends to be an issue for a lot of folks when they're finalizing performance reporting. There is really a wonderful team at the University of Southern Maine at the Violence Against Women Measuring Effectiveness Initiative, VAWA-MEI. They're our technical assistance provider for all things relating to performance reporting. So if anything ever comes up for you on performance reporting that I'm not able to answer, please reach out to them. So I won't be covering every single possible detail in this presentation, but I just want to flag that VAWA-MEI has a lot of resources that can be helpful if we want to explore further. Okay, so many of you are really expert in performance reporting. Many of you even are experts on performance reporting for the transitional housing program, which, as you know, is one of our most complex data collection activities. So if you can do transitional housing, you can definitely do this program. But for those of you who have not received funding from OVW before, this is what performance reporting is. It's an update on project activities that's submitted to OVW every 6 months. It's a required part of all OVW awards. So when you accept the award, you agreed to submit these. It includes numerical and narrative data, and it should reflect your award deliverables, approved activities, and follow award conditions. It should also only reflect grant-funded activities. So I love to hear about all the amazing work that our field is doing that is not funded by the federal government. But for this forum, I only want to hear about what is funded through this award and the activities that are allowable under the condition of that specific award. So that's what performance reporting generally is. And before we dive into what you all are reporting and kind of what performance reporting is going to look like for this program, I like to be really transparent in why we're asking you to submit these onerous reports. There's a variety of really important uses of this data. And really, this program came about because of grantee data. We were only able to make a case for the need for a flexible financial assistance program because over the years, so many grantees told us that they needed this type of program. So performance reporting is really our way of listening to grantees at scale and allows us to be responsive to the field. We also use performance reporting data to fulfill congressional reporting requirements, to monitor awards, to testify before Congress, and to justify future funding. So this is a really important source for OVW to understand what's going on with your work and figure out how we can be supportive of work moving forward. What performance reporting is not intended to do is capture every single detail about your work. I know that victim services, especially flexible financial assistance, it can be really nuanced, really context specific, and really require kind of a human understanding of what advocacy looks like in that scenario. I know that performance reports are not going to capture the complexity of the work that you do. I also do not want performance reports to be a form of extracting data or stories that you cannot share. We know also that performance reports are not going to summarize the entire impact of your work and that sometimes quality work cannot be quantified. We know that. Sometimes the finance kind of with the flexible financial assistance, it's easier to say, I spent this much money or I gave this much money to a survivor, but the impact of that is much harder to measure. And we recognize that. This is also, and this is important for this program, this is not a form of financial reporting. So there's quarterly federal financial reports and then performance reporting. And for this program, performance reporting is going to be about what you did with the funds, kind of how it impacted victims, but it is not the same as federal financial reporting. And then these are some key reminders to think about when you're collecting data and then reporting it back to OVW on performance reports. So award recipients must maintain victim privacy and confidentiality and comply with civil rights regulations when they are collecting and reporting performance data. VAWA confidentiality applies to performance reporting. And I emphasize this to say that the data that you collect and share with OVW is still subject to VAWA confidentiality. That means that there should be no personally identifying information in performance reporting. Many of you already know this, but I just think it's worth mentioning again. Recipients should also ensure that victims and all participants understand how the data they share will be used and who will have access to it. So when you are collecting data to share with OVW about victims that you interact with or serve, make sure that they are informed about how data is shared and how data is being used. Data should also only be collected to the extent that it does not compromise the program's ability to provide services. So with performance reporting, we always emphasize that victim needs come before collecting data. Demographic information is also not a requirement to receive services. So victims should not be required to share demographic information in order to receive services. Finally, again, you should really only report on allowable activities funded by OVW, and anything that is shared in performance reporting must have source documentation, as this is an official government record. So make sure that when you're thinking about what you're sharing in performance reporting, that you have a system of record to make sure that you can point to that if you are ever audited or if anything ever comes up. And we also ask that you do not estimate numbers. Finally, I'm going to flag this data collection reminder, which is that funds under this program may not be used to conduct research. Research is defined as a systematic investigation designed to develop or contribute to generalizable knowledge. And that means that surveys or focus groups, depending on their design and purpose, may constitute research and be out of scope for this program. Assessments conducted for internal improvement purposes only may not be considered research as defined above. And for information on distinguishing between research and assessments, please see the NOFO companion guide. And I just flagged this to say, when we're talking about data, let's be really thoughtful about not overburdening victims, not overburdening survivors, not asking a lot of questions, and ensuring that we're aligning with what's allowable under our program in terms of kind of that systematic data collection. And I'll take a pause here and see if anyone has any questions. But before I do that, I want to thank you all for all that you do to coordinate quality data collection and share your work with OVW. It's really important, and we really, really appreciate it. So I'm going to pause here and see if anyone has any questions. About performance reporting. Got it. I'm seeing none. So I will continue on.
It looks like we have a hand raise, Olivia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, hi. Sorry. This is Kim with Avalon and Detroit. The question I have is around the reporting is, oftentimes, right, like we're sitting kind of waiting for budgets to be approved, and so when it comes to the reporting requirements, I'm assuming we're still just going to have to like complete a report even if we haven't done much yet because we're still waiting on budget, and that report just kind of ends up not having a lot of information in it, right? Or you're not like excused from not submitting a report during the grant period, correct?
That's correct. Okay. That's correct. Every 6 months, regardless of your activities, you have to submit a report or your funds will be frozen. I'll get to it a little bit later about kind of how you'll navigate that if you don't have any activities to report, but that's correct. If you don't have a report, even if you don't have activities, you do still need to submit a report. That said, it'll be a really straightforward report and it shouldn't take you too much time.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
I do see one in the Q&A actually. Is there an estimated time in which the reporting templates will be available?
The reporting templates, I believe the reporting template for FAV is already on the VAWA MEI website, and they're not templates anymore. So I'm going to share a little bit more about that in a moment. I do, as I noted, want to flag that performance reporting is really critical for us to understand areas of remaining need for survivors and communities across the country, and then share those areas of remaining need with Congress. So this is a list of kind of the perennial areas of remaining need that we consistently reported to Congress over the past 10 years. So this is what we've shared with Congress kind of every 2 years in our reports. This is what we heard consistently from the field. And we heard kind of across years stories about how grantees needed flexible financial assistance in order to better serve survivors. So, this tribal government grantee is sharing about the importance of about the economic vulnerability of their clients, and how bad debt leaves them in cycles of abuse. I'm seeing that I'm getting a lot of chat, but I'm not able. Oh, thank you. So that's one example of how we understood these to be really important funds. We also have heard repeatedly from victim advocates that flexible financial assistance may be important. So we heard from this victim advocate in 2024 that housing and finances are a recurring theme with most of the clients that they saw. And then here's another performance report that shares about the specific unmet needs in her community, and how financial barriers really extend beyond housing and utilities. So typically, many funds were available to support with housing and utilities, but not with funds that go beyond housing and utilities. Since you all are grantees of this program, you know all of this to be true. But I think these performance reports really share kind of how we arrived at this program. And the way we arrived at this program is directly through performance reporting and through the ability of grantees to share with OVW what they are struggling with and what their clients need. So thank you for sharing that with us and helping us understand what other services your clients might need. Okay, I'm now going to, that section was a little bit about kind of why we do performance reporting, who the audience is, and kind of the principles behind it. Now we're going to transition directly into the logic or the logistics of it. So you all, if you have previously reported with OVW but didn't report this past year, please do not consider performance reporting from the basis of past years. We have a new system that you need to understand in order to report. So our new tool is called the VAWA Impact Tool. We're in the government, so obviously we love indicators. We love measurement, performance achievements, challenges, and technical assistance. And so we created a fun acronym, which is the VAWA Impact Tool. And that's the way that you will be reporting moving forward. So the reporting cycle, for those of you who may be new to OVW, works this way. So you will fill out a report in the web-based VAWA Impact Tool. You will upload it to Just Grants, and it will be sent to OVW. Then OVW, myself, and my colleagues at the University of Southern Maine, VAWA MEI, we will prepare a report to Congress. And so we take your information, we analyze it, and we're eventually sharing that directly with policymakers. So to report in the VAWA Impact Tool, grantees will receive a link, and your next performance report will be due July 30th of 2025. So the links are not live right now, but if you do not receive a link in June of 2025, you can reach out to me to make sure that you receive that information. So you'll go to the link and then you'll fill out the form. For those of you who have not yet received their budgets, your first performance report is going to be relatively straightforward. So you can enter 0 or NA into mandatory sections and note that you have not yet received your budget clearance in the narrative sections. You do still have to submit a report, but you can kind of skip past sections that don't apply to you if you haven't done the activity. So again, you're going to receive a link. You're going to fill out the performance report in the impact tool. You'll download a PDF file, and then you'll submit that PDF file in Just Grants. For this program, I want to flag the unallowable activities that you should not be reporting on. So that includes research projects, direct victim services that is not connected to financial assistance, activities focused on prevention efforts, direct cash assistance during the first year of award, and then direct cash assistance more than 10% of the budget during the second year of award, and then debt payments to facilitate safety and stability that are more than 10%. So I say this to say performance reporting is a way that we monitor to make sure you are complying with the conditions of the award. So make sure that you are thoughtful not only about what you're doing, but make sure that you are clear in reporting it. So if you over a 10 or 6-month period are doing a lot of debt payment, I would consider making sure you flag to your grant manager that you are not going above 10% of your total award amount. So just be thoughtful in how you're communicating this to your grant manager. Okay, This is, as we've discussed, a brand new and really exciting program. And so that means that we need a new metrics and a new form. So what we have right now is a basic form for the first 6 months of your program. That is already on VAWA MEI's website, and that's what you're going to think about for now. We are going to work together to develop a performance reporting form that it gets to a little bit more of the unique nature of this program. So those are going to be developed and they are not yet finalized. So those are forthcoming. What you need to submit in June or in July is already on the VAWA MEI website. So to kind of clarify, the first 6 months when you're just doing your budget mostly, you have very little to report on. We're going to have a more general form. And then following that, we are working on creating a more unique form that will get at the unique nature of this program and help us understand the impact of flexible financial assistance. I'm also going to flag that this is something that's kind of going to continue to evolve as we learn from each other. This will be the largest ever case study of what it looks like to implement flexible financial assistance for survivors of VAWA crimes. By largest, I mean the largest overall funding, and then also the largest number of different sites. Because of that unique nature of this program, we have a lot that we want to learn about how this works, both so that we can provide information to our colleagues who might want to do something similar, but also so that we can justify and explore future funding. So that might mean that we may choose to field a survey evaluation to understand the scope and impact of this program. That won't be a surprise when it is launched, but details on that are forthcoming. We're still working on the details on that. For year two of direct assistance will be informed by data gathered from year one performance reports and other grantee data indicating whether there is a need for direct cash assistance and how it will be used. So this is just a note that as you develop your own policies and record keeping procedures, think about important information to collect to help inform decisions about year two and how to implement that program in your community. And just as a flag that grantees may use up to 2% of grant award funds to conduct an assessment for internal improvement purposes only. So this might look different depending on your site, and I'm really happy to always connect with you and talk a little bit more about what it might look like to build assessment into this, and then what type of data you might gather to inform year two of direct cash assistance. So some next steps. You are going to review the sample form and instructions that are on the VAWA MEI website. I believe someone put that in the chat. You're going to collect data during this performance reporting period. So any activities that you're doing right now that are funded by the award, you should be reporting on for the period January to June 30th, 2025. And then you're going to submit your performance report in Just Grants. As I said, the data that's going to be asked for on this form is very minimal and may not be super unique to your program. That will improve as we move forward. Okay, I'm going to stop there and see if anyone has any questions about performance reporting, kind of the logistics of it.
I don't see any questions in the Q&A or the chat, but if folks have questions, feel free to add them now.
Awesome. I do see one question in the Q&A about debt payments, and I'm just going to read that out so folks hear the answer. So are the debt payments 10% of the total award or 10% of the budget for the second year? And that is the debt payments should be no more than 10% of the total award. Apologies if that was confusing. Okay, so I'm hearing no questions. Hopefully you all know exactly what you're going to report on. And if you don't, that's okay. More than anything, I want to make sure that we build a relationship and you know that there's a friendly face at OVW you can go to if you have any questions when it comes to performance reporting. Okay. Now we're going to transition away from directly performance reporting, and I'm going to share just a little bit of high-level evidence on flexible financial assistance. And I share this because I know many of you might be submitting grant applications for other forms of other programs, or learning about flexible financial assistance as a program yourself, or you might just be a huge nerd like me. Totally okay if you're not. But since we're implementing a flexible financial assistance program, I always think it's useful to learn what other people have said or thought or done about it. So this is a really high-level takeaway of some of the available evidence that we've been able to track down on flexible financial assistance and why it matters. The first kind of key statement is that VAWA crimes have significant direct and indirect financial consequences. You all probably don't need research to tell you this. It's pretty clear when you're working with clients, but the research really backs up the fact that a variety of different VAWA crimes can have significant short-term and long-term impacts on finances and on economic trajectories. The second key takeaway from the literature is that many communities have already engaged in flexible financial assistance pilots in the US and around the world. So the good thing is we're not alone. And there's a lot of work that's already been done, as many of you know, on how to implement these programs. And specifically how to implement these programs to support survivors specifically. The third lesson is from the literature is that the methodology, conditions, wraparound services, and implementation of financial assistance significantly impacts efficacy. You all know this probably in your practice, but when you have a ton of conditions on flexible financial assistance, it can be less effective. When you have wraparound services, it can be more effective. But again, broad takeaway that the impact can vary in how we implement. And then I'll just kind of generalize that a huge body of literature and say that some research finds that financial assistance is associated with really positive outcomes, such as improved health and economic outcomes, as well as a decrease in interpersonal violence and benefits for child well-being. Though, as I noted, those effects are mediated by the specific approach. And I share all of this to say there's a lot for us all to learn about this work that's been done across the world and by some of you. And I encourage everyone to kind of think about what resources you might need in order to implement this program in the most evidence-based and community-centered way that you possibly can. And then I also want to just name two really wonderful ongoing research endeavors that are funded by the Office on Violence Against Women. There's three different sites that are implementing flexible financial assistance, and we have funded a pretty rigorous evaluation of both of them. So one is an examination in Texas on the impact of flexible financial assistance. And then the other is an evaluation of two East Coast sites. I believe one more. One of them is in DC as well. So our DC folks, I recognize you and the work that has been already ongoing in terms of financial assistance in DC. We at OVW will hope to share any publications or research articles that come out of these studies with you all, since it's directly applicable to how you are implementing. Okay. With that, I'm just going to close. I'll leave plenty of time for questions, although I'll have to hold myself back because I could really talk about the evidence and research behind flexible financial assistance for probably way too long. So I'll hold myself back. But I'll just close by sharing my contact information and saying that I'm really here to make sure that OVW is learning from you and that we're learning about how to best implement this program together. So my contact information is there. And if you have any questions about research or evaluation or performance reporting, I'm really, really happy to always chat and think about this work together. So I'll stop sharing my screen there, and see if anyone has any questions or comments. And Mary, thank you for your kind comment. We hope to share more details about the findings of those 2 studies.
I do see a question in the chat. Will there be a specific training session about the report?
About the report. Mary, I think you are referring to the performance report that's going to be updated. Yep. Once it's finalized, we will definitely share more resources with you. VAWA MEI also obviously creates really unique instructions for every single form. And then they always host several training sessions as well.
So will there be those training sessions? I've looked at the report form and it feels very, very, very general right now. So I'm trying to think through how it's going to apply to our program.
Yeah, so that's the point. It is really general. Why don't we connect and we can chat through what it's going to look like to your program?
Thanks.
Really, it's going to be super general. You all also don't have your budgets quite yet. But as I articulated, kind of we're in this 6-month period where the form doesn't exactly match what you all are doing. And we're working on improving it. We just simply have not had the capacity to build a totally unique form for this program quite yet. So that's why it's confusing. But the instructions should help, and I'm super happy to connect with you and think through that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for the question. I appreciate it. Any other questions?
Not seeing any in the Q&A box or in the chat, but if folks have any questions, feel free to answer those now.
Great. Well, I'll turn it back to the FAV team, but many thanks to you all for your work in your communities. I'm really excited to see what this looks like in implementation and excited to learn about this together. So thanks for sharing your work with OVW, and I'm really excited to see what we can do together.
Thank you so much, Olivia, for that great information. We are going to move into kind of general Q&A time right now. I have a couple of things I just wanted to note that came up in the breakout room that I was in, just in case others have the same question. So there was a question about whether GFMD has some specific examples or any additional guidance on cost reasonableness. So we can definitely ask them about that. If anybody else has any other questions related to that, please come off mute or put them in the Q&A. And that was the big question that came up in ours that didn't have like a super clear answer, and just want to check with others from the team. Did anything come up in your room that you think might be useful for others to know? Okay. I don't see any questions in the Q&A right now. Let me check the chat. Sorry, just scroll down. Let's see. We have a line item in our budget for victim emergency funds, but not direct cash assistance. If we want to distribute direct cash assistance in year 2, do we need a line item for it, or should it be included in victim emergency funds? You don't have to have that specific line item for cash assistance, but you should Well, maybe that's a GFMD question. I was gonna say I was gonna answer, but I was like, maybe it's GFMD. You do need to specify that your direct cash assistance will be no more than 10% of your budget. How that needs to be structured in your budget probably is a GFMD question, or I can also rely on my team to see if they have any more specific guidance that they know about.
They can include in the budget a line item for direct cash year 2 and what they direct cash and the amount, because it's just 10% of whatever that
Right.
total budget is.
Thanks, Sharon.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions? No? All right, I'll move to a little bit of a reminder about a recorded session that you all should be aware of and that you need to watch. And I'll put the link to where it is at in the chat in just a second. So this is a session that is an overview of fraud investigations, and it's presented by the Office of the Inspector General, or OIG. And it is hosted on our TA to TA's website. The link is coming. It's in the chat now. TA to TA is a TA kind of resource provider, and they also receive funds from OVW to provide TA to TA providers. So they're hosting some of our NGO materials on their website. So if you click on the link, you'll be taken to a page where you will see some NGO recordings. And like I said, the one that you'll want to be sure to review is the fraud investigations presented by OIG. There's 2 others on that page that are optional for you to view as well. One to learn more about TA to TA, and another one is about DOJ grant award audits. But those two are optional. You will also find on that page, there is a tab if you click over. There's 3 tabs, one titled NGO Recordings, one titled Resources, and another titled OVW Checklist. In OVW Checklist, you can go there now and see a checklist that you will have to download, complete, and then upload that PDF document into Just Grants as an award deliverable, and you would send that to your OVW grant manager. If you have any questions about that, the logistics of that, ask them now, and I can try to navigate those as well. So we would like everybody to watch all sessions by May 31st, if at all possible. If that is going to be an issue for you, please reach out to your grant managers to have a conversation about that. Barring any technical difficulties with recording in Korean and in English, we do plan to put today's sessions online if we can, as soon as possible. And then we'll also, in the resources tab, we'll upload slides that were used today as well. Let me pause there to see questions.
I did see a hand up, so I'm not sure if that person
yes.
retracted their question or if it was inadvertently put down, but feel free to come off
Yeah,
mute if you
no.
had your question.
I had raised my hand just because I was going to confirm that maybe the link so that it can be shared and whatnot, if we're not able to get it from the chat, or would it be sent out in another format or in an email or someplace so that we're able to go back and get it?
Sure, yeah, we can do kind of a summary email after today, where we'll put all this important information for you, so it's kind of all in one place. So questions coming into the chat: if we recently watched these in earlier 2025 as part of another new grantee orientation, can we simply document that date, or do we need to rewatch the videos? I don't know. My instinct is to say, because this is a different grant program and this is a requirement for this grant program, that you would need to rewatch, but let me default to team members who may know a different answer than me.
I mean, it depends on how recent, I think, you know, that you've watched the one required recording. And so I don't know how recently you might mean. If it's within the last year, I think it's the same recording.
Yeah, based on the dates, I think it's the exact same recording we would have watched live with the other new grantee orientation. And so.
Okay, so for key staff, anyone who's watched that recording, you know, within the past, I don't know what, you know, we'll have to find out what the exact cutoff date is. That's the standard for our office, and we can get back to you about that. But anyone who hasn't seen it, who are key staff, would need to watch and record on that checklist that they've taken that training. But we can get back to you about the exact sort of cutoff date for anyone who's recently watched that particular recording.
Another question, are we sending the checklist directly to our grant manager or uploading into Just Grants? Once you fill it out, you can upload the PDF into Just Grants as an award deliverable. Let me scan the chat for other questions.
Okay, so in the chat, someone had asked, remind me again which staff are required to listen to the FAV session. That's all key staff on the award, for folks who have not been following the chat. So it's all key staff who are on the award are required to listen to that session. If we have a to be hired position, and if that position is not hired by the end of May, can we submit for the other key staff that they watched? Yes, so you can submit the form for any key staff who've watched it now, but be aware that folks who are to be hired, do have a requirement to review any new grantee orientation materials within 1 year. So just sort of putting that on the radar that they would also still be required as part of their onboarding to this award to watch the recording of the FAV training or the orientation.
Other questions? Before we close?
I actually do have a quick question. So I'm looking at the checklist. I'm looking at the checklist, and this is a crazy, silly, tiny little question, but I'm looking at the checklist and I see that 2 of us, I'm filling it out, 2 of us attended this live. Now we have a direct service staff person who will also review this. They're on the grant. There's no option in the checklist to say that they've watched it recorded.
Gotcha.
So
let me see.
I can add their name to the live.
Oh, I see. I see. Okay. What you could do is under attendee name and title, you could kind of put live or recorded there.
Oh, okay. I'll do that. Sorry, that
yeah.
was a silly little logistical question.
No, I mean, good question. That's a good question. Also, if we're having multiple people, fill out the form, if you're going to have multiple forms and turning one in at the same, one document at the same time, make sure like it's one big long PDF. If you're having multiple people fill it out.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. Other things about this or anything you heard today?
I do see someone asked where the checklist is. I think that you dropped that in the chat.
Yes, I can put it back. I can put it different, or I can put it.
It's titled Financial Assistance for Victims TA to TA. That's the name of the document in the chat.
Or the The link in the chat will take you to the website. The document is on the website already, and you're able to download it.
In case it's helpful to anyone, at the top there are tabs, and checklist is the third tab furthest to the right.
All right. Any last questions? Going once.
I have a question.
Yep.
I'm looking at the checklist and I just want to make sure that we have the correct people watch what they're supposed to. So I saw that we have to have at least 2 staff members watch or be part of this current training that we're in. And then for the grant fraud investigation video, is that the one where everybody we have listed on this grant needs to watch that?
The 2 people you have, if you've designated kind of like 2 people that are attending this training, they should also watch that recording. I think it's also useful to, if anybody else involved in the project can watch the recording, that's certainly helpful as well. But at minimum, 2 staff need to watch that. One kind of that's doing programmatic work and another that's doing more financial work.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any others?
Can you remind folks of the due date for the form and also to view the recorded sessions?
Yes, yeah, due date is May 31st, so end of next month.
Thank you.
No problem. It's also on if you download the form, it's at the top of the form as well. And we'll put that in our follow-up email. There's been a bit of a pause. I don't see any others coming in.
I think your form is doing the same thing where it copies down your responses too.
Say that again.
Like when you type into the column on the right and you put live, it copies that down as your answer all the way down. I feel like the ICJR one was doing that too when we had it.
Oh, okay. I can check on that and we'll correct that and then upload whatever the corrected version is. I'm sorry, I didn't know it was doing that. Thank you for that note. All right. Team, any last words? Oh, go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know if we want to direct folks, we'll direct back to NNEDB to discuss the evaluation for today's new grantee orientation.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll be dropping into the chat the link to the evaluation. You can click directly on that text, or you can click on the link that I dropped in directly below. They should both get you to the same place. So we do truly appreciate the feedback. We read all of the feedback. We aim to apply all of the feedback that we can. And we do ask that everyone take the time to complete the evaluation. You'll get the link again in the follow-up email, but it's always best when it's fresh on your mind, so it shouldn't take too long if you have a moment now to just go ahead and click on the link and complete it. Thank you.
We'll be sure to include the All right. not seeing any other questions, I will move to wrap up. Thank you, everybody, for joining us and spending your afternoon with us. We're super excited for you to get started on the award and hear from you and see your performance reports and see how we're helping survivors together. If you have any questions, please reach out to your grant manager for any reason. We're always here for you, and we want to see you succeed, and we want the grant to kind of have a good and healthy start. So let us know if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'll say goodbye for now, and we'll be in touch soon.